Three, two, one. Hi, Ruse Radio. We have returned. Right now, I got a guest, actually. This dude is a rapper himself. And can you say hi to my podcast real quick?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. There he is. Maybe I'll pop his video on there and everything because I'm going to have that too. But this dude is named Petravita. We are currently doing his 60 seconds interview, so I'm just going to hop right back into it. Where are we? Do you like mixing from home?
I actually enjoy mixing from home. I can see it being something that I like work with someone else more someday when I have more money to do that. But to be honest, like I like one, obviously you get direct control. I think I'm a decent mixing engineer at this point, and I could be better, but I also think learning this process has been invaluable for achieving sounds I want without being completely reliant on other people. So personally, yeah, I enjoy mixing at home. I think I enjoy the first 90% of it more than the last 10% because I just second guess myself a lot over, how maybe I need to tame this frequency a little more. Maybe this needs to happen. And then you end up with, 30 different final versions of your song. So, that could be frustrating sometimes, but, I enjoy it. I enjoy mixing.
How did you learn how to produce your own music? Just the trial and error?
Yeah, and I should clarify as well that a lot of my music I don't produce the instrumentals for. So it just depends, and I do produce things on my own and I have done it for other people, but it's not a focus of mine. One thing for me is I got started so late in this so I'm 27 now, and I thought, I wanted to do this for a long time, but as I mentioned earlier, I was so shy and reserved growing up that I couldn't see myself putting these things I created out there. And so I didn't start really practicing and doing this for real until my mid-20s. And I realized, I'm a decent wordsmith and was good enough at rapping, and I could improve with practice, and singing was fun. But I wanted to hone in on those things, and I knew so many people who were interested in producing things already or who had produced instrumentals for me that I decided that wouldn't be, at least anytime soon, a main focus, and I would let people who they wanted to do that as their primary thing be their focus. So my real focus has been the songwriting, vocal delivery, and then learning how to do all the vocal mixing that I need to do after the fact, or the whole song mixing if I have the stems to work with, etc. But I think production is another piece of that puzzle that, just like I think learning to mix was valuable, that I think improving my own production over time could be a good thing. And so someday maybe I'll look back and say, wow, my music's even better now because I have even easier control over every little element that I play with since I'm producing it. But it's not a focus for me right now. As far as learning, though, the parts that I do and the mixing stuff, that for me just came from trial and error on my own, watching some tutorials, seeing what of those things worked for me, what didn't. I still watch them, even if it's like stuff I think I know most of. I like to just see if there's something new I pick up on when one engineer recommends something that I haven't seen before. And then a big thing that's helped as well is a couple of years ago, I started this demo a day thing where I went live on Twitch and started kind of in a couple hours or a few hours. It got quicker over time, but I would take a beat, write either a verse or sometimes the full song to it, then record it, mix it, master it, and upload it live. Not every day, but like every other day is how it actually turned out. And so now we have like 250 or so demos, and you can hear a very stark difference, in how good I was at mixing and finding a good sound for my own voice early on versus how it is now. And so that kind of pressure, coming up with things quickly, working more quickly, or with distractions while you're talking with the chat on the stream, blah, 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 and just raw practice over time helped me improve a lot.
That's also an interactive way to do it. You're kind of like allowing other people to be involved. And
Yes.
that's like
Yeah.
a smart that's smart, dude. I That makes me think like, man, maybe I should be like streaming more often because people probably would click on streams and tune in for that kind of thing. But I was gonna say too,
Yeah.
with mixing, it's like that thing where if you really want to learn how to do something, you can always say like, I'll figure it out, or like I'll look up videos. But like I think the best way to ever figure those things out is to actually be hands on and sit there and figure
You have
out
to at
what
some
sounds
point.
good.
Yes.
Because like you're not gonna be able to know, like you'll never figure out what exactly works for your voice unless, for one,
Yes.
you get like the knowledge that you can get from school or YouTube videos or wherever, and also you just have to have a good ear and you have to have that practice. Like if you've never mixed anything before, it's gonna be way harder for you than the guy who did 150 mixes real quick on a live stream. Like, because that guy has that little bit. And it's also, I was going to say, isn't there nothing like going back to listening to your mix that you made like 140 mixes ago and being like, oh
Right,
my
yeah.
God.
Like,
you
yeah,
hear
my
every
voice is so
mistake.
muddy, and like, yeah.
But I
And I
mean, like,
think,
that's
you know-
also nice because it shows you how much better you've gotten. It's like that all that refined
Yes.
stuff is just sticks out so much more.
And I think if you're a rapper, a singer, I mean, it's anyone's doing music, of course, but also it's specifically if you're a vocalist, you're the lead artist yourself. I think it's essential to learn some mixing and work with your own voice, because just like you touched on, and I wanted to bring up, every voice is different, and the tips that you come across in some video, etc., the way you apply those to your own sound could be very different, and you care more about how your voice in your music sounds. You care more about that than anyone that you're ever gonna pay, no
And you
matter how
have that vision in
expensive
your
they
brain.
are.
You know what
And-
it sounds like to you.
Exactly, and you need to learn how to do that. I'll give a really good example, so it's not just kind of like overview type stuff. So I can give a concrete example of
Make it
exactly what I'm
anecdotal.
talking about. Yes, so when mixing, I know that with my voice and the microphone that I have, my sibilants or my S sounds and the things that come through the most harsh are in a very specific place, that if you go through a lot of videos and they talk about the de-essing step, you're going to either use a de-esser or an EQ that is targeting frequencies. Male and female vocals have different recommended ranges, but a lot of times those go anywhere from 5 to 7, 7 to 9K. But a lot of times, like in the I'd say like 6 to 8 is a real common range for people to have sibilants, and for it to be recommended that it's like, here, you need to listen and like try and tame those sounds.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed real quickly, maybe the mic, my voice, I have a gap in my front teeth where air comes through, so I noticed that as well. And one thing I noticed is my most harsh sounds were always way up, like 10 or 11K. And I was never like a place that had a lot of focus in a lot of the tutorials I watched. And it was only through playing a lot with my own voice, listening to, okay, why are all these de-esser presets that are recommended, why are they making my voice so dull? And it doesn't seem like they're really helping with exactly what I want. And it was only through that kind of experimentation that I found that it's a different range that I needed to
pulling
focus
off
on.
too much of the highs. Like it was too low.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's also like it's like if you ever do go to a studio, having all of that production knowledge helps so much, because you can, for one, you see what's going on. It's not like you're a rapper that's going in there and you're just rapping and then the producer works all their magic. Like you kind of actually know what they're doing. You can even make suggestions and be like, hey, well, what if you did this? And that kind of knowledge helps so much if you kind of know how to mix your own voice, because your voice, like you said, is your voice. There's no other voice like it. Nobody else has that specific gap producing sibilants in their front teeth.
Exactly. And so no one knows how to deal with it like you do. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like I said, only trial and error. That's the only way. That's interesting. I've never I'm gonna go check my S'ing. I'm gonna see if my S's are
Yeah,
good.
see where it's coming through. Yeah,
I will. I
for
just
sure.
like I just got these plugins, so I got this better de-esser now, so it's easier. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how different is life in Stockholm than Seattle?
Yeah, that's interesting. Life, Seattle versus Stockholm. It's interesting because there are a lot of stark differences between, overall society in, let's say, Sweden versus back in the U.S. But obviously, the U.S. is so large and diverse that, me coming from the Pacific Northwest, so a lot of social values are not so far off base with how people maybe think here in general. Obviously, there's all sides of both politics and social services and stuff is still very varied here in Sweden. But I'd say that it's more closely aligned to where I grew up than maybe a lot of places I could have been born in the U.S. And so I think idealistically they're fairly similar places, but there's lots of practical differences in, big ones are in health and education services, but also just in mindset. I think that, a big thing is, Sweden is generally very highly ranked in and good at work-life balance, and people are kind of encouraged to pursue and do other things. It's not at all kind of viewed as weird or lazy if everyone pretty much just clears out of the office by 5:30 and is gone. So I mean that's one thing. There's attitudes on certain things that are more taboo in the U.S. are definitely different here. I'd say, sexually, people are more open. Also, when it comes to relationships and things, marriage, or at least the institution of being married and having that certificate, is not viewed as strongly here. There are many, many, many couples with families that have been a couple 15 years and they're partners, but they're not married. That's pretty common. That's my
I think
girlfriend
that's
and
getting
I
more
have
popular
done
in
as well.
America. It's like we're getting
Yeah.
there.
And that's the other thing I was going to address as well. That is one thing it's interesting for me to try and keep in touch with is things are always moving and modernizing in different ways. And so, I get this and I don't ever want to. I think that if you have lived in both places, then maybe you have a better comparative view, or you're more likely to have a more well-rounded picture of comparing the two. But at the same time, I don't want to kind of put too many words in the mouth of my, friends, family, and just fellow Americans that are living back home still, because, I make it home once a year for 3 or 4 weeks, and that's the extent of my, outside of headlines and online, staying in touch with the pulse of what's going on in Seattle, but let alone the rest of the country. So it's hard for me to always kind of gauge how much is completely different and how much is actually less different than I think, because since it's been about 6 years since I lived year round in the U.S. So
Yeah, it
I
is
could just
interesting.
be
There's
out of
like
touch myself.
it's hard to get a sense of how different, because everything is kind of the same everywhere, but there is also like you go from even from where I'm at to like if I went from Flint to Detroit, everything is different.
Yeah.
Like it's just people don't think the
Yeah.
same way, they don't act the same way. That's just how the world is. And so
Yeah.
even when you're making music or you're talking on things, you don't want to get too caught up in that tiny worldview that you
Right.
have, because
Yeah.
you're only seeing it from your lens. That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
too. Do you think moving from Seattle to Stockholm, do you think that affected your sound or your music at all, or is it just kind of more of a I don't know.
I
Where you're
hadn't.
at.
Yeah. So did moving affect my sound from Seattle to Stockholm? And I think it's important too that I had this in between. So basically, I did this study abroad trip in 2013, but it was really just spending 6 weeks in a town called Uppsala here in Sweden. So it was kind of like be a a student kind of at a Swedish university for a summer kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I realized it was my first time outside the U.S. and I wanted to explore other things and like be other places. And I had met this girl that I was in love with, and she was from England. She was on the same trip, and I kind of was like, okay, I don't know enough Swedish to finish my degree in Sweden, but it literally cost me less in tuition. I could move to England and finish my 2 years there than finishing in the U.S. And so I kind of just made this crazy decision. It was 30 days from when I came back from my trip to the US. And in those 30 days exactly, I had found schools that still had late acceptance for the program I was doing. I was studying advertising at the time, applied for a few, picked one, got my student visa approved, bought a plane ticket that I would still pay off for several years on a credit card, and moved. And I just moved, and I found some students to move in with, and I had a great time living there. But the reason I bring all this up is I had a pit stop of living in England a couple of years before I ever came back to Sweden, and that's really where my music started, because the students that had an open room, all three of them were actually music students, and I was the only one who was studying anything else. One of them heard that I wrote poetry and asked if I wanted to do some stuff with him. If he produced some backing tracks and, played guitar or bass live on stage, then I could do the vocals. And that was kind of my first kick in the ass to get up and try something like this that had made me so nervous. And that's where it all started for me. I still think, though, that even though it's been a international journey in, 3 countries total now to getting to where I am, surely there's some influence, but I still think my sound very much it's much more inspired by where I'm from originally and the artists I would see in hip hop and poetry growing up and going to shows, and I try and keep things on that, like in that area and that level. And I think that also helps. I think that has helped me stand out a bit in both places. You're instantly going to sound different than just about anyone else who's there doing the same thing.
Yeah, because the culture in hip hop.
So I think my style is still from. Yeah, it is, and well, in here, and then a lot of people are rapping in Swedish too. It depends.
Oh yeah, people rap in Swedish over there.
Yeah, so. And it's Sweden is one of the countries where they're always like number 1 or number 2 for English proficiency when it's not the first language. So everyone here is fluent. It's not a problem, and like there are plenty of artists who decide to just make their music in English instead. They want to have a chance to maybe have a wider appeal, or they grew up on English language hip hop, so it feels more natural for them to write their stories in that language. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, hip hop as a genre is still, a little more underground, and I think that lends itself to a very kind of local culture of like doing things in the language about your neighborhood and things like that. And so most of the hip hop is still in Swedish here.
Have you thought about making Swedish songs then?
Yeah, I don't think I would. Almost for the same reason I don't produce as much, is like, why would I stumble through verses in Swedish that probably aren't amazing when there's a lot of really talented Swedish rappers around me? It's not that I never will. I'm sure I'll do a verse in Swedish at some point and stuff.
But that's a good point.
Yeah, but I definitely want to combine, other people I want to work with and friends I've started making in the hip hop community here. I'm totally not opposed to, if there are people who prefer to rap in Swedish, having them do a verse or a chorus on one of my songs that's in another language. That's fine with me.
Well, that'd be a good way, a workaround for that. Yeah, is to, if you're not gonna have the best Swedish verse, the way to tap into that audience is to grab a dude who can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like wow, I didn't really think about that. Yeah, you're in a little bit of a multilingual community over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you perform then? Because it seemed as if when I was going through your Instagram and stuff, it seemed like you perform a decent amount.
Yeah. So how often I perform? I try and perform as often as possible But so basically, my goal for this year was to perform 20 times. And I think, I haven't been that great about keeping up on it or about counting it, but I've kept a good enough pace that I'm pretty sure I've already done that. And if not, I definitely will by the end of the year. And so for me, like, maybe like twice a month. I say one to two times a month, but like maybe closer to two on the whole. But these range from different things. They could be, open mics, or it could be I'm doing a one-off poetry performance, or it could be an actual show that I'm booked for. So it's a variety. I'm not too proud or arrogant at this point to, I'm not doing open mics anymore, or things like that. I want to go and I want to be in front of as many people as possible, share what I have with as many people as possible. So I take just about every opportunity I can. I still miss some things. I'm actually going to miss a decent one this evening, just because I didn't really have something new for it, and I wanted to work on some other things. So it's a balance still, but I'd say, yeah, like maybe about twice a month. But I love performing. I absolutely love it, and so I could, if I could be paid to do it every other night, I'd be perfectly fine with that schedule too.
Yeah. Performing is it's where it's at, man. Performing and like merch are really where the business is at. But even just in like in that personal one-on-one, it's like responding to people's messages is one thing, but if you can have an actual effect on them in person, I think that there's nothing like that, that sticks in people's brains in a way that nothing else does. And so a good performance is invaluable as an artist. Yeah. But also like
and there's no ego pat on the back like someone telling you that after a show too. If they come up to you and say they really liked something, that means a lot. That's
yeah,
cool.
Exactly. Yeah, like the fact, like just hearing someone say like, "Hey, that was incredible," or whatever they say, like it makes you think like, "Wow, really?" Like it was, because I always do this in my bedroom alone.
Yeah.
So awesome. It's nice to know that it really does mean something to somebody.
Yes.
But I also think that like, for one, you want to perform as much as possible, regardless of whether or not you're getting paid, because it's like our boy Gary Vee. It's like if you're trying to really put your name out there, you can't value yourself at this high price. You have to understand that like if you can give away what you've got for free, it shows as long as you're putting your all into it and all that, it shows you're willing to do that for nothing. What would you do for something? Like it speaks for itself.
And they all lead to something. Yeah. I'm having, so I will, I had a couple things that were little small payments in England after I'd done several shows and stuff. But in Stockholm, I basically, did all stuff free last year and lots of that this year. And I will always continue to do that. But it does lead to other things. So I got to have my first paid Stockholm gig a few months back. And then someone at that led to something else, which I have a very big show for me anyways coming up in December, and then one right before that both of those will be paid things as well, and that's like only because I've kept up with all the open mics and all meeting everyone that I can and networking at every event that I go to, putting on my own events to meet more people, and that's, I don't know, it's it's little signs of progress like that kind of are validating that I'm going to keep on this path. I'm not going to be I'm not too big or too small for anything that comes along.
Yeah, man, because it's like it's that butterfly effect. You never know what that one little thing you did is what it means to somebody else, or how it could affect you later. Like, and
yep.
Yeah. Tell us about your show you got coming up in December. Then what's that?
I can't. I can't really talk too much about it. It's interesting. So I basically what happened, or what I can say, is I was at a smaller show that I did in, I want to say, June, and a guy afterwards came up and said that he was on the planning committee for a very kind of exclusive and it was kind of like a high class event that happens in Stockholm each year, and there's and anyways, they have this kind of official after party thing that happens, and eventually I got contacted by the people I submitted stuff. I kind of forgot about it, and several months later, and they reached out and said, we would like to have you perform at this. And so about a week and a half ago, then I had to go, actually went and I signed the contract for it, but signed an NDA as well that says I can't talk about like the exact time or theme or the name of the event, because they do like a secret theme for it.
This
and
guy
stuff like
signed
that.
a paper that says he can't even tell
Yeah,
us.
literally, I know it was, but what I can say is that if you do some research on big yearly events in Stockholm that the name of them is known on an international level, you will know what it is. And this isn't like a stadium thing. This is like it might be a couple thousand people coming through or something. It's not like some giant tour. It's just gonna be big for me.
That's a big deal, though.
I'll leave you with that. Yeah, but it should be really, really fun.
Are you nervous?
Yes and no. I always get nervous, like right before as well, like that I go on. But I know I've done it enough times now that I know what it feels like as soon as I'm on stage or as soon as I have the microphone, and it's like you have the power. It's ready. Everything's
getting
changes.
started. That's the hard
ready,
part.
and so yeah. I mean, nervous. I don't know that it's really close enough yet for me to get nervous, but I think I'm really excited about it. So that will overtake the nerves.
Well, like for me, I'm always nervous, but I think once you're up there and you said those first words, it's started now.
Yeah.
There's no nerves anymore because like you said, you got the power. You're in control.
Yeah.
And it's crazy performing the way that you can guide a room. Like good performers really are just like giving you a crash course. Like whenever I see a nice performance, I'm like, oh, all right. Like, so I need to do a little bit more of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Who do you make music for?
Who do I make music for? That's interesting. I make music for, I think, anyone who needs a soundtrack to what they're doing. And what I mean by that is that one of my kind of motivations in making music is I realized how distinct, nostalgia could be associated with different periods of your life. And I can remember exactly what album I was listening to when this was going on in my life, or I hear a song and I'm instantly this age playing this video game or whatever it was. And I think that I just realized that there's a really kind of transformative or transportative, if that's a word, effect sometimes, so where you can mentally go when you hear a song. And I thought, how cool could it be to be that association for someone else? And so the first jump that maybe sounds more altruistic or that I hear a lot, and I believe a lot, I just think it's not necessarily my main drive, is when people say, I make music for people who are, maybe they feel down or they're in a hard time or they feel like they don't have a voice and things like that. And I think I have songs and will always write songs that fit those situations, but that's just part of the puzzle for me, because I know that I've loved songs, artists, albums, whatever, just as much because they helped me through a tough time, but I've also really just had amazing memories of a really happy time when I didn't necessarily need a boost, but I just have a good association with a song and a time and a place. And so for me, I just think it would be cool to be the soundtrack to someone's whatever moment it is, whatever they need at that time.
Great answer. That was no one's answered that specifically yet. A lot of the time people say, I make music for people who are going through it. And blah.
I mean, I understand that, right? But yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's not a bad answer, but that was a good one. Yeah, it reminds me of the album "Soundtrack of My Life" by Kid Cudi, because I think that's what he was going for. Is that same thing? You're kind of trying to capture that idea of like, I mean, I think the best music just encapsulates emotion in an effective way. It's like it makes you really, when you're recording, you're just trying to capture that vibe or whatever is in the instrumental, but also what's within you in that moment. And if you can do that authentically, I think that speaks through to people. And yeah, that soundtrack to people's lives, man. People need it. People need it because everybody be listening to music.
Exactly.
Like everything's better with music. I swear.
Yes, it's for me. I can be in the shittiest place and not, and I've had the diagnosed clinical depression for several years, and I understand that, like, going through those. But I know that, I've learned about myself. As you grow, you learn things about how you work, and I know that even in the shittiest place where I don't want to make the effort to listen to anything, I can put on some music that's good, and it's hard for me to stay in the worst place at that point, because I immediately connect with something, or I want to move, or a lot of times for me now it's a little bit different too, where I hear something and all of a sudden I go from completely uninspired to like, I've got to try something like that in a song. Like, what a cool melody, how can I not copy that exactly, but how did you get that sound, so I get those kind of boosts from just going and listening to things now as well.
Yeah, you hear a nice little melody and you're like, shit, I could interpolate that.
Yeah,
exactly. That's that musician brain talking. But yeah, like it is really interesting. It's like that nostalgia thing. You hear, like, you're in a bad mood, but you listen to that song that you heard like 2 summers ago, and it just brings that mood right back. It makes you remember where you were, and there's nothing like that. What's your songwriting process like? How do you usually begin to write a song?
Yeah, I think it's maybe been tainted a little bit by how many of these like daily demos we've done on the live stream, where it's like going through the same thing of like, we have a beat, we will now write something that sounds like this beat or whatever, and just go through it. When I'm doing stuff that I think will actually be released and that I will polish up, though, for me, a lot of times I do start with the instrumental, and then I kind of, based on that, I see what ideas I've already been kicking around, and okay, could I start to write to this? I have like what I call like a lyric bank, where I just have lines that I think are interesting or clever, or there's puns and whatever in there, and like maybe they fit into something someday, but it's not like a full song or anything like that. And those are lots of kind of one-off things, but I don't write a lot of songs before I have music for them, as far as the lyrics go. I don't really like having to rewrite my original ideas or flows to fit a new sound or tempo. And I also think that because I do some poetry stuff as well, a lot of times if I'm writing without music, then I almost want to keep it that way, or I'm doing it with intent from the beginning, and then I'm writing a whole different kind of piece if it's going to be like, a 4-minute spoken word beat poetry type thing. But for normal songs, I'm just working with either have a beat I find, or someone sends me, or a producer friend gives me an idea, and I say, yeah, let's run with that, and then I just start writing to it. The guy I'm working on an album with right now is a producer who he actually found me through the live streams, and we've been friends for a couple of years now, and only, he lives in the Netherlands, so we just work together online. But he's a really talented instrumentalist and producer. So when I started thinking about, okay, let's do a more cohesive project, then we started, going back and forth. Sometimes we would even take like video calls. We would be like this on Discord, but we'd open a screen share, and him and I would just have his like Ableton open, and we'd play around, and he'd be like, what do you think of this? And I'd be like, oh, let's try this type of drum. And we just go back and forth like that on a call.
So that's how you freaking do stuff like that. You use Discord. That's smart.
You can, yeah. I mean, you can do the same thing on Skype and
no, but Discord's better.
Probably other things, but it's much better. The quality on Skype is such crap. People
that's what I was thinking. That's why I never wanted to do it.
Yeah, and it's so bad. The quality is so bad. I don't understand how it's still like the standard. But
right? Yeah. Probably because everybody's got shitty internet, and so
it's like the go-to.
The easiest thing to use.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yes. Discord. I see. Even when you messaged me today and you were like, yeah, call me on Discord. I was like, oh, Discord, and I had to like figure it out. But like, yo, this is like way better. Like even the sound quality for the phone is probably better. Like I'm getting some nice sound.
Is.
Oh, I was gonna let you know too. Since you do that thing where you make songs so quickly, there is actually a website a bunch of people use. It's called FAWM. Have you ever heard of it?
Okay, no, I don't think so.
FAWM. It's called like February Album Writing Month, and the whole challenge of FAWM is to make 30 songs in 30 days. And then there's a whole other thing they do later in the year called.
How do you do that in February?
What's that?
Does it have to be a leap year? How do you do it in February?
Oh yeah, right. Days? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not 30.
Hold up.
But yeah, it's probably like whatever, a song a day. Yeah, and you got that in February, and then you got the 50-90 challenge that they also do, which is 50 songs in 90 days, and that's like later on in the year. Mm-hmm. But what's so nice about something like that is that somebody like you're already making songs that quickly for your Discord or whatever you're doing it for.
Yeah.
You literally can just send that wave file right over to FAWM or upload it to your SoundCloud and put that link on FAWM, whatever. And you'll get, you'll get a nice little pool of people that are actually going to go listen to it because they have a little community there.
That's cool.
But for another thing, they'll give you constructive criticism. So it's like you're getting constructive criticism for your mixes, and you're also getting this new audience to tap into, and all you have to do is upload those songs that you're already making.
That I'm already,
So pro tip.
2 seconds. I'm just going to get myself another glass of water real quick.
Hey, you have fun.
I'll be right back.
Hey, Ruse Radio. Oh, I got to push my button. What a perfect time to change my camera battery. My camera battery is dying, Ruse Radio, so let's change that camera battery. In case you didn't know, if you're listening on audio, I upload all these to YouTube in video format. So if you want to see the video form of this podcast, you just go on YouTube, players. Nice to see y'all. We are here with Petravita yet again. I say, oh yeah, Ruse Radio. Guys, I'm so excited. Let me get my camera set up so I can come back and tell you why I'm excited.
I'm back when you're back.
All right. I'll tell you guys why I'm excited later. We got Petravita back on here. Petravita is going to tell us, what is the first song you ever wrote? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I got two answers to this one. The first song that I really wrote and then like recorded, performed, which was in England during that first when I met the friend who was part of the act with me originally, and that song was called Blade Runner. I think just because it sampled some dialogue from the original movie at the beginning of the instrumental, and
cool song,
and it was a kind of spoken word pseudo rap piece, just about the journey so far at that point and going abroad and falling in love and moving somewhere else away from family and navigating that, and that's what it was about, and the delivery is pretty weak because I didn't know what I was doing, and it's still up on SoundCloud, but it's an interesting lesson because it's not well delivered, it's not well mixed, it's okay in the writing, but it's still, even early on, got a couple thousand plays just from that like local support, as you talk about meeting people one-on-one and playing shows, and I think that was eye-opening for me, and that I always want to improve, but also to make sure I'm not always criticizing everything as a music artist, because that's not how normal people listen to songs. And they can really enjoy something that to my ears like, oh, that sounds lo-fi, or it's not mixed the best or whatever. So that was interesting, but that's the kind of the real song answer. The funnier answer is that I would always try and like freestyle when I was a little kid, like middle school, probably 11, 12, 13 years old. And I can remember being a little kid and making fun of my uncle in a freestyle at our cabin. I don't remember the rest of it, but I always remember that some of my most biting bars in that song were Look at the light shining off his bald dome. If he was any fatter, he'd be useful as a lawn gnome. That was my those were my sharp words for my uncle at that age. And then I realized in my early 20s that I was gonna have a receding hairline and lose my hair fairly early too. So then I was like, all right, well that's just karma.
Those bars are gonna apply to you.
Yeah, but it was, I always remember that. That was so funny.
Wow, that lawn gnome bar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I got like a couple more questions for you, and then we are done. How important is it to put yourself first?
In which context? Or
I think
give me a little more.
I think I was watching your latest podcast, and you were talking about putting yourself first.
Yeah. Okay. I think I got you. So putting yourself first is important, at least within certain contexts, and I think it's kind of a balancing act, or a little bit of a gray area where it might seem a little contradictory, but it's important in that I think you need to be very selfless in your expectations of others and how much you give, and everything about that. As an artist, we talk about taking time to respond, about reaching out, about making things with other people. I think all that's important, but my kind of point in that video, and also what I think is important when I talk about putting yourself first, is you just, maybe I can't speak for everyone, but it seems pretty common, and I know this is how it goes with me. You cannot give like energy or a mood that you don't genuinely have, or you can only fake it for so long. So if you're not in a good place, or you're not happy with what your day-to-day is, you need to change those circumstances first before you try and look to kind of some sort of external validation. And to put it more plainly, or more practical terms, if you're a music artist and you're not happy with how you're spending your time, or you hate your job, or you're in a relationship that's not healthy, or whatever it may be, you need to fix that thing before you realistically expect that you're not going to be saved by being discovered by your music or fans coming to you, and then you can deal with the problems later because you have more resources to do it, etc. You need to find a way to like get yourself into a good place in order to give. I think that people pick up on bullshit easily, and you can only fake it till you make it for so long, and kind of desperately plead with people to support you or do whatever it is you want them to do, before you need to just kind of be in love with the grind of it in the process. And you can't you can't expect that kind of validation from somewhere else if you don't even have it for yourself. So when I talk about putting yourself first, that's mostly what I mean. I think you just need to do whatever it takes to get yourself into a good place before you chase anything externally.
That's probably some of the best advice you could give anybody, though, honestly, because I 100% agree. It's like even the little things, like if you are unhealthy and you lead an unhealthy lifestyle, like you never work out, you just sit around all day, automatically that works into everything else you do. If you're not doing music, if you're not doing, like, it doesn't matter what it is, like anything that you're trying to put your brain through, it's all running through this filter of everything else you do. It's like everything really is everything. And so if you lead a healthy lifestyle, you become that person. Like your mentality correlates directly with your health and all that shit. And also even what you were saying about relationships too, like or anything. It's like anything that's like toxic in your life, you have to be able to look at it and realize how it's affecting you, because it does. It's it's like that thing that Gary Vee says about auditing your inner circle. If you have a bunch of people surrounding you and they're all negative, you will naturally become more negative no matter what. That's just how the world is. Yeah. And that when I heard him say that the first time, I was like, wow, like, duh, of course that's a thing. But I never really thought about it in that way.
Yeah, and I've had to do, that's been an important thing for me too. You know, I have people who are still near and dear to me and were some of my first friends here in Sweden. But they're always negative or procrastinating or all talk and don't do anything. And so while they treat me very well as a friend, I just know that, I've kind of started naturally distancing myself and associating more with the people I meet through music and that I know will show up at the studio to work on something or give feedback on a song, just because that's more productive to surround myself with. And it can be hard to bite that bullet sometimes, but it's important. When we talk about relationships too, one thing I want to mention that I've snuck into an interview or two before because it was such a profoundly life-changing thing for me. And this has been like a guiding principle that sparked, and you'll understand when you hear this why I was able to go from kind of I'm afraid of everything type of kid to I'm gonna move across the world and have no support system and live with a bunch of strangers and just take this leap of faith.
Okay.
And what it was this has got to be close to a decade ago now. I don't know exactly, but there was as I remember it, there was a hospice worker who I believe was from Australia, and she wrote a book about kind of the top regrets of, the dying people that she had worked with over the years, and cataloged and talked about why certain things came up so often, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember literally only reading a review of the book that talked about the 5 biggest ones that she had written about. And I hope to read the actual book someday, but this has always stuck with me. There were some things you kind of expect where people were like, oh, I wish I would have, worked less, spent more time with my family, or cared less about money, or things like that. But the absolute biggest one that was a perspective shift for me was that people would say things that boiled down to, I wish I wouldn't have mistaken comfort for happiness. And for me, I realized how often that if I really kind of put a decision under a microscope and ask myself, okay, this thing I'm about to do, when I look back on this, am I going to honestly say that I did it because this made the best, most interesting experience, life story, etc. for me, or I'm going to do it because it was the easiest and most comfortable thing? Am I doing it because I think this will force me to grow, or am I doing this because I'm afraid to, lose someone if you're breaking up with someone in a relationship, or be alone, or, am I, it's what I'm supposed to do and it's easy, or do I think actually there's something better for me and that's why I'm going to move and do this whole journey that I went on? And so that's been a big thing that kind of helps me kind of audit my own bullshit sometimes as well, is when I'm kind of drifting towards a certain thing and I can kind of say, hey, is this what's really going to make me happy? And another way of thinking about it, am I going to be proud of this decision, or do I know deep down that I did this because it was the easier option and it's comfortable and expected? And that's helped me a lot.
Wow. You're right. You're very right. That's that's what gets people stuck, is that comfort. Because wow, you basically said everything I can say. That's some good advice.
I hope it helps someone who hears it. It's definitely helped me, for sure.
What's the book called?
That's what I need to find out for you.
Oh, you need to find the book.
I love it, but it's literally just offhanded from reading that summary and thinking about it on my own afterwards. I've never actually tried to seek out the actual title. It's just been a mantra I took and ran with rather than anything I dug into.
What's a great mantra? Because often the more difficult choice is not the more comfortable choice. Never is it really. And so making those decisions, you cannot mistake comfort for happiness. Wow. Yeah. You just blew my mind. I'm gonna go live by that now.
Awesome. Yeah, do it.
I got 2 more. What's next?
I look forward to seeing it as a quote on your Instagram.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna throw it in a song or some shit.
Yeah.
What's next for Petravita?
What's next for Petravita is more of the same. I'm very much, we've evoked Gary's name in this conversation, and I'm very much a fan of just sticking to the process that's worked so far and not getting too greedy. It's just for me, I'm always on a constant like development journey of how much can I squeeze into a day, how well can I stick to a checklist of tasks I give myself to do every day or each week, etc. And so I think really just the same actions that I've been doing, making my music, going through the promotion motions, playing as many live shows as possible, reaching out individually to fans and friends or potential fans, and then just the amount wise bringing that up. I think that for me, it's just always, that is a little bit of improvement. It's like, okay, how can I squeeze a few more minutes of what I think is helpful into the today, and that might mean I'm making extra content for Instagram that day. It could mean I'm spending more, getting a track out every month instead of every couple of months between projects. It could mean I don't just look for Spotify playlists as contact information to submit songs to, but I start reaching out to like YouTubers and content creators. So I'm always just kind of like scheming different ways I can add more to the pile. I think I like it enough in the end. If I kind of clear things of distractions, then I enjoy the process of like, shooting a shot so many times and get as many people as possible. Give me a chance. So
Yeah. Well, it's like Gary Vee says, man, it's that content, that consistency in content. If anybody's better at consistent content than him, I would like to see, because like he is like the ultimate role model for having consistent content, or like, hey, what could I throw on my Instagram story? Hey, am I not using Snapchat enough? Hey, I'm not posting on YouTube daily. Hey, maybe I should do my podcast more often. Hey, why am I not on Twitter? Like all these things. And it's just, he's like the perfect example. You can look at him and be like, oh, so that's how you do it. But and it's also, I think it's an entrepreneur thing. Like if you're a good entrepreneur, you will never look at your content and say, yeah, that's good enough. Like ever. It's never good enough. There's always like one thing you could have done that day, or one thing that you need to improve it. And I think that mindset is super important if you want to be someone who's going to get somewhere, because you have to have that constant idea of evolution.
And if you don't dwell on those things, if you can quickly internalize them and learn for them for the next time, because you can put up something and be like, that didn't perform well, I'm going to learn something for next time. Or you can be the type of person who puts up something and is like, that didn't perform well, and then you take it down and you spend time editing that same thing, and you waste.
I agree.
You get caught up too much in that lesson. You know what I mean? So it's like in between. It's the balance of it.
Yeah, because you have to
learn from it, but don't dwell on it.
Yeah, well, that is so true. Yeah, a lot of people would just go back and try to fix it, and it's okay, it's fine. Just take that and learn from it. Yeah. Only one more good question for you. You got any advice for the kids at home? Anything that you could tell people who are aspiring creators?
Yeah. So if you're an aspiring creator, I think that one of the we've talked about a lot of good stuff for creators today, but I think one of the best things you can do as a creator of any type of content, whether you're doing visual content or you have a business that's selling a product, or you're a musician like me and you want to get your music out to more people, whatever it is you do, you need to look at what everyone else is doing and be better in terms of the effort you put in. For example, if everyone is just spamming, yo, this shit's fire, fam, check my tracks in the comments of Instagram, deep down, if you ask yourself in your heart, do I care when some rando does this to me? No. Then don't think that other people are going to be nicer or more generous to you for some reason than you would, even give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You need to be better than that. You need to find a more genuine way to engage. Same thing with, I think always when I think about this, it's like, people are talking about, it'd be a lot. If you think about, I could do this to put my content out. You think I could start a live stream, or I could put out a video every week, or I could put out a demo every day. And your first thought is, God damn, that's going to be a lot of work. You're probably on the right track, because most people it is going to be a lot of work, but that means that most people are not going to do it. And they're going to be looking for like a little strategic hack or workaround of like, how do I get the most views or how do I game the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. And it's really hard because this is advice that when you're starting out, and especially if you haven't kind of been in a business environment before, especially marketing and stuff like that, it's really easy to disregard this kind of advice and kind of think that you know better. But it really, really, truly, I implore, if 10,000 people heard this and one kid actually got it and ran with it, that'd be fine with me, is you need to just look at what other people are doing and do the things they aren't willing to, because that's how you stand out. If you look at the type of content creators you look up to, it's the type of people that are putting that effort into their music, their visuals, their meme page, whatever it is that they do. They're putting more work into it than other people that want to do the same thing, and that's a big factor in why it's paying off for them. So just do that. One question that's really useful that I touched on as well is really asking yourself, when you're gonna post something, ask yourself if you would care. And like I said, that people aren't gonna just because it's you be nicer than you would be to someone else. And think, if you saw this come by your feed and some acquaintance or some random rapper, whoever it is, had this image posted and it came by, would you actually care or do whatever is in that? For example, I posted a thing yesterday saying I have a new song coming out in a week, pre-save it. And the Instagram post was about pre-saving it. I know that most people won't do that, and that's why most of my content is not like that. That's why you see me upload a lot of like advice podcasts or song snippets that you don't have to go anywhere else to listen to them, or behind the scenes, or just encouraging rants at people to like give them a kick in the butt to work or do something, because I know that if I saw those things, those would be actually helpful. And it's okay to sprinkle in your promotional stuff, but everyone is doing 90% promotional, me, here's something I made, check this thing I made. And if you can, again, be better than that, have a better ratio, a more useful ratio, you'll be on the right track. So that's my long-winded answer.
Beautiful. And he's completely right about everything. All you got to say now is look at that camera and say, this has been 60 Seconds with Petravita.
This has been 60 Seconds with Petravita.
Bam! That's the interview. I'll tell you right now, you are awesome. My longest interview yet, my friend.
I didn't know how long it was gonna be, but I'm always happy to talk with the kind of like-minded people that are on their hustle and creating stuff.
Oh yeah, no, like I was gonna say, like, yo, if you ever want to be on my podcast again, or we could fucking figure something out, because it sounds like we kind of are on that same wavelength.
Yeah. And I see the stuff that you're like consistently like creating too when I was looking through your Instagram, and I think that's it's cool. It's cool to see people doing that kind of stuff. Just like we're talking about, just like we have been talking about, right? It's like that you can tell that there's more effort put in and like an idea behind the content than a lot of people trying to post stuff. So
well, that's why 60 Seconds is such a good idea. It allowed me to take, because for one, when I first did it, I was thinking this is a good networking idea. I'm going to meet a ton of people. Naturally, they're going to want to meet me because it's a free interview I'm offering. It's basically a free ad. But then it became, where are all these people where their content is like a hub for other creators? And then like, it doesn't really exist, especially in the Flint area. There's not really a person you can look to that is kind of trying to take a bunch of creators and make it digestible and easy to understand, and also has production value to it. And so by making something like 60 Seconds with, for one, it's a good concept, but for another thing, it allows for me to expand my brand into this thing that's not just me, it's bigger than me. And through that, it speaks for itself. I think it's like what you're saying. If I just posted promotion for my music all the time, and I'm just always saying, yo, check out this song I made, then that becomes tiresome. But if I'm posting a lot of the time like interviews with artists, and it's something that's not even about me, it's already saying that this is more than me, and you can check my shit out while you're here. But it's expanded beyond just that is the check out my songs. Bring
people kind of into your environment.
Yeah, and you want them to care, though. You want them to, like, feel like they're doing it not because you told them to. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
It's a
Also,
genuine.
one thing I will say that you might not that you might not like me as much. I'm checking it right now, and the crop. My guess is that I kind of slouched down in the chair over time, so I'm kind of low in the frame of this video for some of it. But maybe you can.
Oh, I'll work my magic.
Have it,
I'll figure it out. They all look aesthetic.
Some of the. Yeah, exactly. I've seen that you can. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, all it really is, because
I'll be popping up from the bottom of the screen talking
slowly over time, like it's just a gradual. No big deal. Because I mean, like, really, a lot of it's in the edit. A lot of it, you get the interview. Yeah. And honestly, man, if you're serious about visuals and all that, I'd highly recommend investing in a DSLR or just something better than a phone camera. If you're really,
I plan to, but it's financial.
Yeah, it's a financial thing. Trust me, I know. But like, that's the next step for visuals. But even like, if you are really, if your computer ever holds you back, one other thing you can do is go to somebody who knows how to build computers and try to have them help you because you don't really want to buy
I built mine as well. Like I'm good with that kind of stuff.
And there you go. Yeah, if you're building your computer, you already know what it is because like it's always just little parts that you can improve and things like that. If you buy like a computer from like I don't know if you were from the U.S. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you all have different stores.
Yeah, of course.
But like you go to like Best Buy.
Stores, I know it.
And they ain't gonna give you a great computer to mix music and make videos on. They'll give you like the bare bones.
They give you the retiree internet browsing special.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what grandma needs. Grandma needs that computer.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, no, it is a pleasure talking to somebody who is a like-minded individual because like I'm pretty much the same way as you in terms of we're both recording on Reaper. We're both recording all of our stuff ourselves pretty much. We're both also our own promotional people, and that's like a big. It's like what I'm always preaching to people because like you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset in this day and age if you want to get anywhere as an artist. It's like you are. You are an artist first, but not really, because you really kind of need to be an entrepreneur first if you want to get anywhere. It's like you make all of the art, but if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, what does it matter? Like if you make the best song on SoundCloud and it's fire and it's amazing and you know it's amazing, what does it matter if you can't put that in front of a bunch of people?
No one, yeah.
And so, all I've been on for the last like few years, especially 60. Yeah.
If you want to put air in your tire, do it now because I'm taking the pump with me.
Okay, just a moment. But all I've been on for the last few years since the 60 seconds, especially, is like just this entrepreneurial trying to figure out just little ways to make like it's like what you're saying, you know. With your advice to people at the very end, it's like if you saw this, would you care? Yeah. That's a great piece of advice because it's like that's what I think every time I see those spam comments on Instagram. It's like I don't care. Nothing would ever make me want to click your spam comment because I know it's spam. But the way I met you was you commented on something of mine with something of substance, and I'm like,
it wasn't just a bot.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, this guy actually watched it and he's interested. Because if you had commented, even if it was you and it's the exact same person, but if you had commented something like, yo, this fire, check out my latest drop, I'm gonna be like, no, I probably won't.
I just gave you a couple fire emojis and a 100.
Yeah, dog, because that's like most of my comments. It's like that shit. It's so annoying because like literally all you have to do is just comment something of substance. One Gary Vee tip that blew my mind is that one really smart way to get into your niche on Instagram is to use those hashtags that you're using. Go into those top, you know the tip I'm talking about with the top 9?
That's what I was doing when we met. I do that pretty much every day now.
Yep.
I go into several hashtags and I do that.
It's so smart.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It's so smart because it's not cheating.
600 to 800 and some followers in like the last month and a half doing that.
Wow, no shit, for real?
Yeah.
That's a
maybe
huge
closer to 2
improvement.
months. So maybe almost 100 a month from doing it, but yeah.
You're making me think, like, because I haven't been doing that. Like, now that you said that.
The way I do it, I adapted it a little bit just to, like, the amount of time I wanted to spend and stuff. So the way I do it is I do however much I have time for that day, but usually between 5 and 8 hashtags, and I kind of have a hybrid method. I don't know if it's the best. It's just what I'm trying right now. And I comment on one top post in that tag, and then like 4, 5, or 6 of the most recent, and then I go to the next tag.
That's smart though too, because if you always do it on the top post,
on a bigger post, but yeah.
Yep, because always the top posts are nice, but the recent posts are where if you're commenting something of substance, especially,
responding.
Yeah, yep, and if it's a smaller page, they'll probably even appreciate it more that you had commented. Yep. Wow. Cool stuff, dude.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna end my podcast right here.
The line at the end was this has been 60 seconds with Petravita. Is that right?
You did it perfect. Everybody always says this has been 60 seconds with Ruse. So.
Oh no. But the reason is because I'm looking at my phone and I can see, since it was such a long interview, that luckily I kept checking it throughout, so it's okay. Luckily, it wasn't until like the last few minutes it looks like it used up my storage, and so plenty of content for the 60 seconds, and then I have all the audio on Reaper, so you'll get that. That's fine for the podcast. But I wanted to redo the last line just to make
Yes, you're right, because I was about to say. If you've watched any 60 Seconds episodes, the very end, I do cut to the person's face, and it says, "This has been 60 seconds with." Yeah. So, but do you want to do that right now, or do you want to wait till you have storage space?
Hang on, I cleared up a couple things.
All right. All you gotta say is, "This has been 60 Seconds with Petravita." This is the magic of content creating right here.
Yeah. This has been 60 Seconds with Petravita.
Bam! He nailed it again. Beautiful.
Real one-take William over here.
One take William. But yo,
on Twitch you can make your own custom emotes. And I made a little one that's like just a little figurine of me, and I don't know, like my name's not William, it's Brandon, but I decided to just like make it an alliteration, so we have one take William as an emote people can spam if it goes well.
So you really are a one take William. He's got the emote.
Usually. I'm not saying it gets used a lot.
All right, real quick. Hey, Ruse Radio. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a nice long episode. We got Petravita from all the way around the globe over here. We are going global. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been a blast. I'm going to clock out. Ruse Radio, clocking out.